asked Libby to stick around, and we said, hey, Andie, pull up a chair and join the conversation. You guys are working on a book. Libby, I'd like you to maybe just share briefly how you got to meet Andie, and then briefly on the book as well.
Oh, so I met or connected with Andie quite a long time ago. So maybe 2015. I was sort of working, or I was very interested and involved with anti-trafficking projects.
Human trafficking.
Yeah, human trafficking. And Andie was also had a very big heart for that. So we connected over that, but sort of became friends. And despite living in completely different countries,
very different countries,
we tracked with each other. We just, sort of talked, and, emails and Facebook is always a good way to connect. And then in about March 2020, I was actually not working in London at that point. I was working in the region, the southeast of England. And Andie just sent me an email saying, this has happened in this truce with the gangs. And I actually at that point didn't really know much about South Africa much, and also about the situation in the Cape Flats. I do now. I've done a lot more research.
Yeah. Okay.
So I looked at it and I went, oh, seems like a really good story. I will just send it to the correspondent, whose name is Andrew Harding. He was the BBC Africa correspondent at that point. And I just emailed him because it's quite easy for me in an internal system to find out those people. And then I don't really think I knew what was going to happen because, things go off into the ether and I'm busy doing my own job. And then they did the piece that was done as a digital video, not a News Online story. Okay. But that piece actually did go on. It is online, but it did go on the 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock news in the UK as well.
Okay.
And then I obviously was working, and it was really hard work in the pandemic as a news editor. So I don't think I took much notice, not in a bad way, of what was happening. Right. That was sort of, but obviously Andie kept updating me that the story was sort of getting picked up around the world.
By various news agencies.
And New York Times, Australia, and over the years he would send me, he'd done this documentary and things like that. And I think we really started talking about a book. It was only at the beginning of the year, wasn't it, really? Because you moved back to Australia. And I think there was very much a thought that we just wanted to not lose these stories. If we don't get these stories down on paper about what's been happening for good in those places, then they could be lost. And the best way to do that is to write it down as a book. I think that while I was doing a lot of preparation, I obviously read a lot of books about South African history, and things like that. But I also read The Cross and the Switchblade.
Oh, wow. Brilliant.
I don't know if your listeners, David Wilkerson. Yeah. That was obviously back in the 50s and 60s in America. He worked with gangs in America. Yeah. But, and felt very inspired that we should do a similar thing. And neither me or Andie know what will happen as a result of this, but we just want to get it down on paper. So I'd have to say that 2 months ago, and Andie knows this, I thought there was absolutely no way that I would be able to come to South Africa due to work commitments. I'm selling my house, everything. I have 2 children as well who are 18 and 16.
Getting married commitments,
I'm getting married, yes.
That's a big commitment.
Not to Andie.
Yeah, not to me.
And there was, I didn't think that there was any way that I'd be able to come. And then it literally was like God made a way. And in fact, I went, I don't know if there's a Christian conference festival called New Wine. Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of it. So I was there in July with my daughter, who's 16. I helped with the youth catering, shout out to Eva, who won't be listening. But
you can watch it online later.
She loved it there. But I had some words and some affirmations because I really didn't know what I should be doing. And that sort of it's one of those things where it literally just happened that I'm here.
Sure.
But if I think about it too much, I'm like, how did that happen? It's like that, isn't it?
I just
Andie?
love those
100%.
moments, though.
Truly, yeah. So, Andie, from your side, I mean, the book, tell us just a bit more quickly. It's obviously the early days.
Yeah. Look, I think at the end of the day, there's been many stories told. Probably, I think 20 or 25 documentaries, etc., done on what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years with lockdown and the gangs and truces and so on and so forth. And that's been kind of bemusing, interesting, sometimes fun. It's been actually a great thing from a ministry perspective because the boys see themselves as heroes on TV, and then they start to walk out as heroes. I've literally had, hardcore guys, really hardcore guys who've killed many people who've said, "Pastor, I can't shoot anybody anymore because I'm a hero."
Sure.
You know, so it's actually been a really powerful thing. But in terms of this particular project, as Lib said, there is an element of something a little like the cross and the switchblade with what has gone on here. It's been nothing to do with me. I just happen to have been the guy who God's, honored by allowing me to sit there and go, wow, pretty much nothing much more than that. But I think there's two things. So one is just to give glory to God for all that has happened and which continues to happen. We were 3 days ago in Scottsdene and Kryfontein, most dangerous part on the northern side, I think it's fair to say. And we got a truce there on the 2nd of December, 2020. It still lasted to this day.
Wow.
22 years of shooting every day.
Wow.
And now not a single shot since then amongst those two particular gangs. They play cricket together every single day
Amazing.
instead of shooting each other, right? So God needs to get the glory for that. That story needs to get out. Number one. Number two, for these young men, two greatest needs that they have is a lack of a father and a lack of agency, a lack of voice. So to give them voice, to give their stories, the ability to be told. The great hero in what happened in 2020 with the gang truce, as I've told Libby and I've probably told you guys before, is Preston, one of the senior guys in the Americans in Manenberg. He took me into enemy territory with guns drawn to start delivering soap, and we both stood the chance of getting shot. He stood an almost certainty of getting shot because there was war at the time, but he was an absolute hero and, literally risked his life for his community. So that story needs to be told, not the story of the white guy who happens to be a taxi driver in a big truck, but the guy who's impoverished but still said, "Hey, I'll do anything I can to help my community," and he did a fantastic job.
Sure. So we're going to definitely have lots of conversations going forward, not just with Andie, but also Libby. I mean, with technology, you being in London, no problem. We can do that.
And I think what's important as well, we hope, and obviously we are at the early stages. I've done quite a few hours of interviews, and I've transcribed a few, and I've written a couple of chapters. Is that we want there to be something good that comes out of a project. One of the boys that Andie is very good friends with is trying to create a project through sport where the guys can sort of focus on sport. So we're trying to sort of we want to try and use the book to maybe raise the profile of that and sort of have a lasting legacy. Yeah, that's not from us. Yeah. It's from inside them. They created the idea, and that type of thing. So it's really about seeing the potential and giving them and telling their stories of this human hope and potential that everybody has.
That's it. Brilliant. So maybe you're listening to this and you're saying, well, when it comes to sport, I could maybe hook you guys up with some sporting equipment or something like that. Why don't you connect with us in studio right now via WhatsApp? We'll pass your details on to Andie. And who knows, maybe we can make a real difference in some of those gang-riddled areas, Send us a WhatsApp, just to give us your email address. We'll get your number from the WhatsApp. And please, if you want to be part of the solution. But so good. WhatsApp number is
061 798 1075.
Andie, Libby, thank you so much. And I just love it. It's so important that these things are captured, that those good stories get out there. And so from our side, we definitely want to do what we can as well.
And I love the fact that you mentioned that, we want to capture those good stories and keep them in paper form, because sadly, in the reality that we live in, all the bad is always out there. Yeah. And we lose sight of what they really is. There's a lot of good happening as well, but we do lose sight of it. Yeah. So well done to you guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Great pleasure.